All right, welcome back, guys. I want to show you guys my new build. This is probably the strongest build I've ever played or will ever play. And I guess I've named the title the best build you'll never play because the budget here is kind of in the it's in the heavens. It's a very expensive build. Um, I would recommend not even trying to set this up unless you've got about a mirror worth of spending currencies. If you want to get it to the level I'm at, right? You can make a budget version, but you're not going to get the same results. So just keep that in mind. We're sitting here now with a one chain temple. We couldn't really get our third chain or second chain set up yet, but regardless, the enemies in here have quite a bit of effectiveness, right? So they're going to be a lot tankier than you would find in maps. Also, sometimes we get the map modifiers, which give them extra HP or extra resistances, or, they have like extra energy shield or something, which makes them tankier. And so for temple farming specifically, I swapped away from Ice Shot and into this build because of the damage scaling is much higher on this build. And we actually need that damage. Also, you can get a source of damage, which is really good at killing really tanky enemies, which is percent based damage, right? Percent max HP based damage. So, for example, Bursting Plague here, it builds up Plague up to 20% of the enemy's maximum life. And then that burst explodes and it is a pretty big AoE because it gets 100% more area of effect at maximum plague, and the radius is 1.8 meters already. So it ends up being, I don't know, 3 meters or so, or 4 meters. I don't know, it's pretty big. But it's blowing up, doing percent max HP damage, and that is helping us kill these really tanky monsters here in the temple. And because this is a poison-based skill right here, and the only other access to like percent-based HP damage in the game are things like the Dreaming Scepter or Detonate Dead, which we can't really use either of those. I went for this as the best option to get that percent max HP based damage. And so because it's a poison skill and it's a support gem that you can only really use in skills that poison, we are running Poisonburst Arrow, which I mean, we already know a lot about this because it was the most popular build at the start of the league on Pathfinder. But here on Oracle, there's a lot of cool ways we can scale the damage much higher. And like I said, this is the best build you'll never play. The damage is absurd, the clear is absurd, the AoE is absurd, the single target's disgusting. The survivability, I mean, we're at 11k energy shield and we can still get more if we wanted. So survivability's fine. And yeah, once you get your headhunter buffs up, you're basically a god. You run around, one-shot everything, you're immortal. You'll see when I go through the temple. But let's go over the skills and stuff here. So we're starting off with Poisonburst Arrow, and we're using Magnified Area because this will both increase the AoE on the Poisonburst Arrow itself, but also on the Bursting Plague. So it's getting like a double dipping effect here, which is really nice. This increases your clear quite a bit. Bursting Plague, like I said, for that percent max HP damage, and it's similar to like a Herald, right? It does AoE damage, and it helps you clear, and it can shotgun enemies. Multi-shot, we want more projectiles, because I'll explain that later with the quiver we're using, but just more projectiles is more clear, and it just makes it a little easier to clear stuff without having to be so accurate with your shots, right? Key Desire, so we have a lot of rage in this build. I have 63 total rage, and we're doing poisons. And by making those poisons deal 2% faster per rage, we're essentially dealing the damage 126% faster, which is just 126% more poison DPS, basically. As long as your poisons are long enough to be able to, last a little while. You don't want your poisons to expire within like half a second because then you have to re-poison every time. But we've solved that on the passive tree, which I'll explain next. All right, Gurakan's Resolve. I mean, this is just a broken support on any Ascendancy if you're going a crit build, but especially broken on Oracle because of how the Ascendancy works, where you're always guaranteed to crit. And so this downside of having a maximum crit chance of 50 is basically not there. So what this downside means is that if you got a character with a bunch of crit chance scaling, the highest you'll ever see on like the tooltip in here is going to be 50%, right? But on Oracle, we're always critting. So the tooltip doesn't matter. And it just means that when we do crit, we are going to bifurcate our crit, giving us the double crit damage bonus every time. Now, I'm not sure if that applies just on the first roll or both, but either way, this ends up being on average a lot more crit damage than otherwise. And the way that this build works, because we're doing poisons, is we want to high roll a lucky crit that does massive amount of damage, right? We didn't roll any of that crit damage away from the Ascendancy, rolling that crit damage away. We got a lucky crit that didn't have to re-roll any times, and that damage will be so high that it'll create a massive poison, and that massive poison will then be spread around to all the enemies, because this Herald of Plague, it spreads only the most damaging poison. So that massive poison we're getting from playing Oracle with Gurakan's Resolve is then going to go around and, you know, kill everything for us, basically. And that's what makes our clear so insane. So in essence, you don't really need that much crit rate. You just got to get lucky on a high roll, right? And that poison will kill everything for you. Also, this quiver here has this component, the Covetous Arrow. And this basically also bypasses the downside of Gurakan's Resolve. This Covetous Arrow always crits. That's just built into the arrow. So it bypasses that downside, and it also gives you, or not Covetous, sorry, Diamond Arrow. It bypasses that downside. It also gives you increased critical damage bonus. So when you trigger a Diamond Arrow, that is going to be a massive hit, which is not going to even have to re-roll our crit down on the Oracle. And that hit will, you know, again, just create a huge poison that gets spread around and kills everything. So that's kind of how we're scaling our damage here. And for these purposes, I've actually gone for a crit damage quiver or bow. And this was much cheaper than buying like a crit chance one. Because I'm just trying to get the highest high roll I can get and let my poisons do all the work. But you can also go for crit. Crit is also very good. It's just that this is way, way cheaper than buying a crit bow. And because we're guaranteed to crit some of the times with the Diamond Arrow, then we don't necessarily need the crit chance, right? Moving on. Toxic Growth. I've gotten the build now to the point where my damage, even with just Poisonburst, is so high, I don't even need this. Like, I can kill Zesh in like 4 seconds with Poisonburst, which is crazy, right? Because it's not really a bossing skill. It's designed to just be like a mapping skill. But it can still kill bosses really fast with how much damage I have. But either way, if you're not at the level of damage I have yet, Toxic Growth is just absurdly broken this patch, and even on like budget gear, we'll just delete Pinnacles like it's, you know, no tomorrow. So we're going Concentrated Area, Long Fuse, Rigwald's Ferocity, Yolnoto's Embrace. This allows it to break armor really fast and give it, you know, permanent damage bonus once it's broken the armor. And then Efficiency, because the cost on this is quite high, and if you're going to be spamming it on bosses, having to use your Mana Flask and having like a downtime where you can't attack, it cuts into your damage more than like another damage support would, you know, or not having another damage support would cut into your damage. So I think this is better than a different damage support. If you wanted to try and just go for like a one shot, you can use Gurakan's Resolve, but honestly, Efficiency feels the best to me to get that reduced mana cost. And then Gas Arrow is there to trigger the Toxic Growth. We're going Persistent Ground, Prolonged Duration. Corrosion will allow it to, again, break the armor faster. Deadly Poison and Escalating Poison. You don't necessarily need Corrosion. You can go for like Area of Effect or another duration support or something if you want to, because we already have armor breaking in this. But this just makes it so that boss gets his armor broken even faster. All right, moving on to Despair. Again, I don't really need this. I kill bosses so fast within 2 seconds that the difference between using this and not is irrelevant. But for people who don't have as good of gear as me, this will definitely increase your kill speed on bosses. And this is going to basically remove a lot of their chaos res, which most of our skills here are doing a lot of chaos damage. So it's just more damage. And we're doing Heightened Curse, Ritualistic Curse, Curse Crown, Focus Curse, and Efficiency again, because we don't want our mana cost to be too high on this. Now, Eternal Rage, this is how we're always at max rage, and we're using Mysticism in here just because I had extra spirit. You don't need this. It's just a nice little addition. This spell damage is converted to attack damage because we're using, of course, the Crown of Eyes as before. So this is increasing our damage, but we don't necessarily need this. So if you can't fit the spirit, just cut this first. Moving on to Berserk. Berserk is multiplying all our attack damage, which we're getting from both rage and from our spell damage scaling. And then we want to multiply this number as high as possible. So Dialia's gives this +1 level and 10 quality. And then you can also use Uhtred's Omen to give it 3 more levels. And that results here with a Corrupted Gem at, results with a 79% increased rage effect, which is, I think, the most you can get. Very, very powerful. Wind Dancer, this is actually our best defensive aura, believe it or not. So we don't have any evasion in the build, but that's irrelevant because this basically will one-shot enemies when we get stunned or we get hit in melee range. And that allows us to play a lot more aggressively. We can sprint around the map, not have to worry about getting stunned and dying. If we do get stunned out of our sprint, enemies will basically commit suicide by hitting us because this will trigger doing a bunch of damage in AoE, triggering our armor break, armor explosion, and also our Herald of Ash to kill everything around us. And you'll see gameplay of that here in the temple. Now, Herald of Plague, like I said, this is allowing us to spread that poison, and this is essentially what's allowing us to clear without having to even hit enemies. Sometimes they just will die off screen from the poison being spread around. So this is really good for clear speed on a poison build. And then Herald of Ash, I added this in at the very end because I had 30 spirit left over. And it looks cool, and it helps our damage a little bit because we're overkilling stuff by so much that ignite becomes quite significant. But it's kind of unneeded. If you couldn't fit this, it's not the end of the world. You could take this out, plus you could take Mysticism out, and the build would function relatively the same. Now, the one other option here, which I was using for a while, was Convalescence. This build doesn't have any kind of leech for energy shield, so the recovery is basically just energy shield recharge, which takes a while to activate, and it can be kind of annoying to have to wait for that. So you could use Convalescence, which allows you to basically get your energy shield recharge starting. It's kind of like a flask almost for energy shield. But it has like a weird cast time, and it doesn't activate if you're attacking because it has a cast time. You have to kind of wait half a second for it to activate. And so it feels really clunky and bad, and I'm not a huge fan of it. And honestly, once you get your Headhunter buffs up or in maps, I never really need it because I'm killing stuff so fast. Everything around me is dying, and I rarely ever get hit. And if I do get hit, then they're just going to blow up from Wind Dancers. So defensive side of things, we're just relying on our huge hit pool not to die. We don't really have any recovery, but nothing's going to one-shot us really through through 11k. And then, yeah, we don't even need recovery. Once our Headhunter buffs are up, we'll be fine. So yeah, that's the setup, and this is pretty optimal. There is a few changes I would make once I get a mirror bow. There is a mirror bow that has, like 2 additional projectiles and 5% crit, which I think Sushi has. If you want to get that bow mirrored, you need to like message him or one of his mods or something. And he has I think he has a no mirror fee, so you can mirror it for free basically if you have a mirror. And that would be the bow I would go for this build, because those 2 extra projectiles are going to allow you to start to use things like Nova projectiles. So we'll have, with that bow, we'll have 2 from the suffixes. We'll have the ability to put a rune in there that gives us another 1. We have our default arrow, so that's 4. And then with multi-shot, that takes us all the way up to 6. And then once you're sitting on 6 arrows, you can start to use Nova projectiles and just forget about aiming. And I would take out Bursting Plague, because once you're on a mirror bow, your damage is so high you don't even need it anymore, right? So then you'll be able to run around and just click, and everything around you will die. You will not even need to aim. And in Temple, when you get Headhunter buffs, there are some Headhunter buffs that give you extra projectiles. You will get up to like 10, 12 projectiles. Basically, you'll be a walking nuke. You just run around and click, everything on your screen dies. Everything off screen dies as well, because we have chaining in the build. So you walk into a room in Temple, click once, the whole room is dead. So it's going to be broken. But anyways, I don't have that yet. I'm saving up for that bow. I didn't want to wait until I had the bow to make the showcase, because it would take a while to, get 2,300 divines or whatever together. I'm halfway there, but we still got a ways to go. All right. So that's kind of the skill gem setup. Now I'll go over the gear, which honestly hasn't changed that much from the last video, from the previous version, which was with Ice Shot. And we're going with, like I said, the bow right now has crit damage. The mirror bow is going to be a lot better than this, with like 2 extra projectiles, plus 5 to projectile skills and 5 crit. But for now, this one is getting the job done, and I bought this for cheap. It was only like 8 divines. So really cheap bow, getting the job done here with crit damage. And it allows us to high roll. When we get a high roll with our Gurikon's Resolve, we have a really big crit. Moving on, the helmet. We want Spirit on the helmet to get enough Spirit, and we want, of course, the Crown of Eyes. That's where a lot of our damage scaling is coming from. The quiver, This is for mapping. This is much better for mapping, in my opinion, than using a rare quiver, just because you have that diamond arrow, which is always a crit, which will give you that really big poison that gets spread around. Also, you have these other arrows like the crescendo, splintering, and reversing, which all basically increase your clear by giving you more coverage. And then the covetous is kind of nice too, because when you're mapping and you kill rares with this, you'll get probably more, loot to drop on average, some divines or whatever, right? Sometimes. So very nice. And then for the corruptions here, this is pretty important. This build is kind of mana hungry. So I would recommend mana per enemy killed at a bare minimum. And if you can get one with, crit damage or damage on top of that, that's even better. So go look for something like that. The attack speed doesn't matter that much because we're limited by our mana costs. So don't worry about that too much, but obviously more is better. Moving on to the amulet. So this is the same as I was using before in the last build. We're going for a Spirit Amulet with a bunch of Energy Shield and Global Defenses to get our Energy Shield up. That implicit there, because we're playing Berserk, we need a source of life regen somewhere in the build so that we don't die to our own Berserk. And so the Crimson Amulet is just really convenient at giving us just a little bit of life regen. And that way we don't have to use a suffix for life regen anywhere else on the gear. So I really like the Crimson Amulet for this kind of a setup. And then we're going for +3 projectile skills, and the suffixes here don't really matter. It's kind of whatever you get. If you get lucky and exalt res, that's fine. Rarity is good as well. But yeah, that's kind of what you're looking for. For the ring, I bought a really nice ring that, kind of fixed my resistances, and then I decided to mirror it with Calandra's Touch because this is a very cheap unique right now, or at least it was like very cheap back when people were farming Temple a bunch. So we have a ring here with Fizz damage, rarity, double rarity, 2 resistances, and then I added that desecration myself because, again, we're getting increased spell damage, which is then being converted into attack damage. So that's like 21% more or increased attack damage while we're on full energy shield, which in temples, while we're, running around with our Headhunter, we're basically always at full energy shield. We're not getting hit by anything because everything dies instantly. Moving on to the gloves. I crafted these myself. I really wanted crit damage, and I got it. Attack speed would have been nice too, but again, it's not as important because we're limited by our mana costs, so attacking too fast is actually bad. So we went for crit damage instead, and I got rarity, increased effective sockets with a 2 socket. I crafted on an exceptional base to get 2 sockets, and we have the damage as, the extra physical damage and the attack speed runes, and then the prefixes, physical damage again, and a bunch of energy shield. We do not really care about getting like lightning or cold or anything like that, flat sources of that, because this build has no penetration for elements. So those are not going to get great value against enemies that have resistances. And on top of that, we don't need those to be able to shock, ignite, chill, because Headhunter is going to be allowing us to do that anyway. Moving on. Headhunter heavy belts, obviously most broken belt in the game right now. And I just went for extra attributes on here. If you need res, get res, but yeah, look for a corruption with like res or attributes. Either way is very strong. Don't worry about the life. You can get a minimum roll life, and it doesn't matter because we're playing Chaos Inoculation. And you at least want 2 charm slots here. Moving on to the boots. Again, crafted these. A bunch of energy shield, 35% movement speed, and then increased effective socketed runes. This is important. This is multiplying this rune here, which is giving us 40% increased movement speed while sprinting. So this is allowing us to get through the temple way faster and just sprint around, blowing everything up. And it's really nice because this downside of losing maximum life per second doesn't apply to us because we're playing Chaos Inoculation, and we have at least a little bit of regen in the build here. So it's essentially the same as Berserk. It's free. Moving on. So the Laviana Spirit helps a lot with our mana sustain, and to get this into the build, all you need to do is put a Wastegate belt on, slot it in, and then put your Headhunter back on, and it'll be locked in that slot, and while it's there, it'll be activated and be giving you mana back, mana back per second from Flask 41.5, so it's just always active there in that slot. Really nice. And then we have another Flask to help us. We do have to use this sometimes when we're attacking too fast in Temple to help us get our mana back, but yeah. Just a good flask like this is going to be your best bet. One other option, which I was playing around with when I was down at this portion of the tree, which is kind of a cool tech, is if you're having mana problems, this point right here is very strong since Laviana Spirit is always active, and this will basically give you 30% increased mana cost efficiency all the time. So all your skills are going to be 30%, all your attack skills are going to be 30% less cost. So really, really broken here with this Laviana Spirit tech. So keep that in mind. If you need mana sustain, this is a good option to help with that. If you're already down here at this part of the tree, and then I'm using a Stun Charm, Slow Charm, and I'm using a Golden Charm for this stag. This one was very expensive. I think I spent 700 divines or something on this. Probably should have saved for a mirror, but I had the money, so I went for it. And this one is going to give us even more movement speed, elemental resistances, allowing us to overcap, even if we get like elemental weakness or something on us, we'll be fine. And then skill speed, which just makes like the wind up animation on our attacks a little bit nicer. And then damage extra lightning is nice because that allows us to shock even if we don't have the headhunter buffs up, right? And yeah, that's the gear setup. Now the passive tree has changed a little bit. We've kind of cut this bottom section here because I found some broken abusable stuff over here on this right side of the tree. But let's go through it. So we're going to go through spell damage to get the most damage. AoE on our mapping weapon set. We do not want AoE on Poisonburst arrow. We want this thing to shotgun. Or on, sorry, not Poisonburst, Toxic Growth. We want it to shotgun. The smaller AoE you have, the better, actually. So AoE is basically reserved only for the Poisonburst arrow, and then Toxic Growth will be on weapon set 2. And then we come through here, we grab this max rage, obviously. Now, this right here, Heroic Tragedy, this is where we're getting a lot of our energy shield from. If I was to take this out, I'd go from 11.7k down to 7.4k. It's absolutely massive, right? And the way it's giving us so much energy shield is it's converting our strength into energy shield. And I do have a decent amount of strength here with like 190. But beyond that, the points in range are converted into other points. And so I was able to find one here with 1, 2, 3, 4 notables that are like pretty good to take here, that are all in range, that give 40% increased energy shield, a massive amount. So in total, this is 160% increased energy shield, plus 1% per 2 strength, which is another like, what, 90% energy shield for me. So disgusting amounts of energy shield here, and this is what allows the build to get such high energy shield values. And then also I found some other good points in range. This one has attack speed, physical damage, and projectile damage. So this is probably the best one you'll ever find. It probably took me, I don't know, I probably bought 200 or 300 of these things and just resold them if they were not good. And this is the best one I found. So if you're trying to copy my build exactly, put a live search out for 440. This thing is cracked. This is by far the best one for this build, and good luck, because it's very kind of uncommon to get the exact number that you're looking for. There might be other good ones out there, but 440 is, this one is really, really good. Moving on, we want this on our mapping or our bossing because we're using 2 skills in sequence, Gas Arrow into Toxic Growth. So this is like 24% increased attack damage, so pretty good. Come over here, get this energy shield from Equipped Body Armor. Our energy shield is mainly coming from the body armor. We do have a decent amount on gloves and boots, but the body armor is kind of carrying most of it, as you can see there. We go from like 4k to 11k. So this is very important. Then we come up here, get Mystical Rage. This is where a lot of our damage scaling is coming from, getting that rage converted into spell damage and then back into attack damage with Crown of Eyes, and then that attack damage being multiplied by rage again. Over here, we're taking this keystone, not because we need it, but because it allows us to grab physical damage and another point that gives us damage extra physical. This point is really high value. Now, we come over here, we take energy shield, we're wrapping around, we take another jewel socket, we come over here with more energy shield, and then we come over here to chaos inoculation, and we grab crit damage, our ailment and stun threshold here. And then, of course, we have a damage extra chaos. And this wither I have on my bossing weapon set so that when I weapon swap and I start attacking a boss, I will wither them to make them take more chaos damage. And it's kind of nice to have. And then we're getting more crit chance and more crit damage down here. And then we'll come down here, and I'll explain this here in a second. So obviously, this section is good for a crit build. It gives us more crit. This diamond right here is very important. So you want a medium ring diamond here, controlled metamorphosis, because these 2 points, at least in POB, these 2 points make a massive difference in your damage. So basically, with 10 poisons recently, you get 100% increased poison duration. And because we're using Takides, right? Takides is going to increase the speed at which we do damage with that poison. So our poison turns into like a 10-second poison, and then we're doing damage faster. So that is like a multiplying factor where we get more damage over a longer duration, and then we're doing it faster. So this here point is really good. It gives like 30% damage or something. And then this point is even more broken because we're getting +1 poison, which is essentially doubling our poison damage. And so this one is also like, I don't know, 40-50% more damage. It's actually crazy. These 2 points together are giving me like 80% more damage or something. It's ridiculous. So very important to get this. And then this section here is the new stuff that I found a couple days ago. And this is maybe the most broken thing I've ever seen in the game. So first of all, they added more AoE onto this area of the tree, this patch. So instead of having to come over here and taking these AoE nodes that we were taking before, right here and right here, we have the option of taking this, and this is giving a lot of AoE. We're getting 18% on both of these, which with a little bit of a downside, which is not too big of a deal. We have so much damage, the downside is not really noticeable. And so a bunch of AoE, which is really nice for mapping. And then this is where things go wacko mode. All right, so we're using a resonance from nothing right here. And this is allowing us to save a few points. Not too important, but we're able to take a lot of high value points here in range. And, you know, you get crit damage, crit chance, damage, or attack speed. We get this giving us movement speed, chaos damage, attributes. And then this right here is where everything goes wild. So apparently this jewel in PUB is like giving me 80% more damage. It's unbelievable, right? Because I tried a controlled, or I tried a Against the Darkness with the like 4% damage extra in here, and in PUB it was only like 6 or 7% more damage. But this thing is 80% more damage, and the reason for that is this build already has so many sources of increased damage and so many sources of crit scaling that the only other multiplier that we have access to is magnitude of ailments. And so stuff like increasing our shock, increasing our poison DPS is another scaling vector that we have not, you know, tapped into yet. So now we're adding another scaling vector, which it's absurd. It's absurd. Plus this jewel right here, this 25% increased effect of notable passives in range, this actually increases the effect of these ones as well. And so this one, which normally gave 40% increased attack damage while on full life, is now giving 50, for example. And we're always on full life because we're playing Chaos Inoculation. And this one that gave attack speed, now giving more attack speed. This one gave spell damage, which again is more attack damage for us with the helmet, now giving even more spell damage. And actually, I think that's only with a melee weapon, but either way, that's irrelevant. Every point in range here is going to be worth taking because of what you're getting out of this jewel right here. So magnitude of damaging ailments inflicted with critical hits, we're always critting. So this is always taking effect. Magnitude of ailments you inflict. Now there's two options here. You can either get poison magnitude or you can get ailments. Ailments is better because ailments allows you to scale your shock as well. But if you can only find one that has poison magnitude, that's also passable. Crit damage, of course. I mean, we're a crit build, really strong. And then finally, this increased effect, which is not only multiplying these, but also the points in range as well, like I said. And the way we're able to get all this without having to spend a whole lot of points to travel is by coming over here and grabbing the hollow palm technique with our ascendancy, of course, that allows us to take points in range. And so that's how we're able to get like these 4 points here without having to spend any travel points. So the point efficiency here is just ridiculous. And then we also get extra free stuff that is really good. We get more movement speed, projectile damage, crit damage, physical damage, and then AoE for our mapping. And if you wanted to, you could even take this, which is going to increase your mana recovery while you have a flask. And like I said, this flask is always active. So if you're having mana problems, you might want to take this as well. But yeah, this section right here, absolutely broken. I'm probably doubling my damage with this section here. And yeah, that is the tree. I'll go over some of the jewels I didn't mention yet. So I went for a Megalomaniac, and because my single target is already so insane, I just wanted more damage for mapping and for these temples where enemies get really tanky. And so I went for Preemptive Strike. This is going to allow me to high roll even higher to get an even bigger poison that spreads around. So 100% increased critical damage against enemies at full life. And then I have dark entities or entries here for +1 chaos skills, which again is really good because all our damaging skills are all chaos. And it also increases the level on the Herald of Plague as well. The Heart of the Well that I have is pretty important. We have increased energy shield from equipped body armor. This gives us a lot of energy shield actually. And then we have damage extra chaos. We don't want damage extra cold, fire, or lightning because, like I said, we don't have any penetration for those. But most enemies have no chaos res, so this gets pretty much max value. Crit damage, of course, we're a crit build. And then mana on kill. This helps a lot with our mana sustain in maps and in temple. So very strong. And then I already mentioned the From Nothing. And then the last one, yeah, we have the Heroic Tragedy, From Nothing, Heart of the Well, Megalomaniac, Controlled Metamorphosis, and then again this insane Time Loss Emerald. So basically a bunch of unique jewels and one really insane Time Loss jewel is what we're using. We're making the best of what we have access to here in the game. So like I said, this is not a budget build, and it requires a lot of investment into all this stuff. But if you can set this up, like I said, it's the best build you'll never play. So anyways, I'm done with going over the gear and the passive tree and the skills and everything. So let's get some actual action here, and I'll show you what it looks like here in a pretty high effectiveness temple. It could be better, but this is as far as I've gotten so far. But yeah, the clear is ridiculous. We're just one-shotting everything, and these enemies are very tanky. So the fact that we can just kill them in like literally 1 second goes to show how much damage we have. A lot of other builds really struggle to kill this stuff and take a lot of time. Even like some of the most expensive builds out there, like the Temporalis build, right? You have to wait a little while for that Thunderbolt to do damage and kill stuff. Whereas we, in this build, can just kill everything instantly. It's just, everything is getting one shot. There's really, yeah, nothing that can survive our damage. Even this boss here, look at that, just instantly gone. Okay, I got some projectiles. Now we can show it what it looks like here on like a mirror bow setup, right? So now this is what the build would look like once you get a mirror bow. Just run into a room. Don't even have to aim. You just click like this. Everything dies. Right? And this is kind of the goal once I get the money for the bow. Is to have it look like this. Right? It's actually just the most broken build I've ever played and probably will ever play. Hopefully Oracle doesn't get nerfed too much in the upcoming leagues, because I have a lot of fun with this Ascendancy, and I think it allows for some really broken things on the passive tree. But okay, we're back to 3 projectiles. Hopefully we can fix that soon. But even with just like 3 projectiles, as you can see, I don't have to aim anymore. My AoE is so big that it's basically covering the whole screen already. Oh no, oh no. Uh-oh. That was a mistake. Sorry, guys. I think I'll stop the showcase there. I lost my Headhunter buffs. But yeah, you guys get the idea, right? I didn't want to do the Architect. That was not a room I was supposed to go into. But yeah, anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoy the showcase. I can show you guys a boss as well if you want to see like a Breach boss, like a Zest or something. But I mean, it hasn't changed since the last build. It's literally 3 seconds. You're basically just waiting for that damage reduction window to go away, and then after that, you're just one-shotting him. This build probably does. I mean, in POB, it was saying it was like 20-something million DPS or 30 million. So essentially, you can kill 2 Zesh bosses per second if you're triggering all 5 pods at the same time, right? So yeah, hope you guys enjoy this build. This is a broken build. If you have the money for it, I think you'll really love it. I think this is probably the next best build you can make after the Temporalis build, which, like I said, has like a 3 mirror entry fee. So if you don't have 3 mirrors, you only have 1, go for this thing. You'll love it. And then, yeah, I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.